Come on, let's set it up. Come on.
Did you guys want to talk about something or no?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of reading.
What are you reading?
Bible, of course.
Passage.
Currently in Daniel 6. Not really, I don't know.
You're an atheist, right?
I'd say I'm not convinced of most definitions of God, yeah.
You are a fucking virus on this earth.
Such a thing. Why is that?
We know that two
Think
black
the
people
behavior
can
you are
produce
doing now is
a
something you should,
non-melanated chap. Shut up.
You think that what you're doing right now is something that you would advocate all people do?
Yeah.
Yeah? You think the world would be better if everyone behaved like you do right now?
Right.
Just think about that.
Well, Etio,
What's
I have
the
a
point in
question.
life?
Do you think
Yeah.
the world would be better if every single person on it held to agnostic and atheistic ideals?
Right.
Or
I
at
think
least
people
like
should,
secular ideals.
I don't think they're ideals, actually.
Okay.
So
Well, philosophies, beliefs, I don't know what you want to call them.
I would say secular positions are generally going to be more ethical, yeah.
Okay. How do you come to this conclusion?
Well, by my own subjective definition of morals, like everyone else.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, nobody
I
is
thought you had
black.
some, like...
No one's white.
Well, I didn't
Okay.
make such claims, but I'm interested to see how you justify that position.
Everyone's
Because
black.
some black people are actually white. Actually white people.
The way they behave, you mean culturally, or were you saying their skin is not really black?
We know that two black people
They're
can
not
produce
brown or dark?
a non-melanated chap. The original inhabitants of Europe was dark skinned.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that all humans came from like dark skin pigment, right?
I don't believe that people came out of Africa. No.
Okay.
The black people that ended up in West and South Africa, they migrated there.
Still what?
Okay.
There's scientists that are saying at one point in time the Earth was together on some Pangea shit, and it was broken up. Something catastrophic broke it up.
The tectonic plates shifting away from each
Explain
other.
that.
Well, I think a lot of I think what's happened is that the water level has risen a lot in the past. I mean, and that will naturally create water, you know, in areas that previously was land. You have a global flood story in almost every culture. So it stands to reason that, you know, glaciers and shit were melting and producing a lot more water on the surface of the earth.
Right.
Here, I'll draw you a little tectonic plate diagram.
But don't you think that's reasonable? It's that a lot of water was produced as a result of melting fucking ice?
Of course not.
Me or Mark?
Either, both? No? Okay.
Yeah, so I think that I think the flood the Bible talks about is a regional flood. I think it's caused by all the post-glacial flooding in the Middle East, and
I would
it
agree
pretty
with
much
that. I
covered
would
up
think
all the.
there's been floods all over the earth, too, throughout history.
Yeah, I agree. But if you look at all ancient Sumerian oral tradition, every single culture has their own flood story, and I think that
Agreed.
it's definitely something that happened. But
Well, I'm not so sure that the global flood was really like. There's always going to be shit that floats. Like, I'm not sure. There's going to be a lot of debris and shit that's ultimately going to float. Trees and people. Like, I doubt there's only one person that had thought of a boat. That the scale of the global flood, as depicted in the Bible, seems not realistic to me.
I don't think. Oh, I don't know. I think
the whole Earth was flooded and there was no land anywhere. I don't believe that.
I agree.
Especially
I think there's
not
a really,
after humans were here. Maybe before, for sure.
I think there's a really good case you could make for the whole Earth not being flooded, especially because, you know, there were birds depicted in the flood story that weren't on Noah's Ark, meaning they had to have been somewhere.
I mean, kangaroos, they couldn't have been on the ark. Like, let's just.
Well, sure. I also think that once again I think it was a regional flood, so I think most likely if Noah took all the animals, it was all the animals of the region, so he probably had, you know, just all animals that are native to the Middle East. He probably had 2 tigers, 2 lions, 2.
Yeah, but I don't think all
gazelles.
animals that we see on Earth stem from that ark. Like, there are people who do that.
Yeah, I don't think that either. I don't think that's feasible. I do think that most of the population was killed in this flood because you can look at like Y chromosome bottlenecks only a couple thousand years back. Like we all stemmed from a common ancestor only like 14,000 years ago or something like that. So I definitely think that whatever this flood was wiped out most of the population, and I think that was definitely a catastrophic event, but I don't think it's on the scale that a lot of Christians do. Anyways, imagine this is the tectonic plate. This is the, you know, the big island. As it got bigger and bigger, you know, it just split it further and further apart. And then you ended up with all these little bits apart from each other because the thing came in between them. And then the water came in filling the gap, and it happened over millions upon millions of years, or so they say. I don't know. I don't really think that, I mean, my opinion on the Bible is that the New Testament is kind of where it's all at. Like, I think in terms of
I think another reformation is necessary, and a refinement of the freaking Bible is necessary. There's shit in there that makes no sense. That has no belonging in there. Go read Numbers 5:11. Who like? There's all sorts of. This is why I hold the moral relativistic view, which is there's all sorts of refinements that occur in all religions, where it's like nothing is set in stone in terms of what is acceptable or not, right? Jesus himself represents that because he came and then refined the Old Testament, right? So you got to recognize
Well,
this shit's going to continue happening.
I think that like my view on that is God was commanding a different group of people, and they needed to follow laws in a different sort of way that would help them worship God to the greatest degree. And I think that Jesus needed to come fulfill those laws and then do what he did. But yeah, I think the Old Testament's absolutely important. I don't think that I don't think most Christians follow the Levitical law anymore.
Tell me, what is there to gain from the story about Abraham sacrificing Isaac? But what is there? There's nothing good there.
There actually is something good there. It's telling a story about how if you're faithful to God, you'll end up earning what is good. Right?
Well, God didn't need to show it in that way. That's an unethical thing he did.
If you're using the most extreme means to illustrate something, then obviously it's going to get the point across better. And there's nothing immoral about what he did. No one ended up dying. Like, it didn't break any of the laws or commandments that God had put in place before that moment.
Yeah, I don't care about that. My personal subjective perspective, but I think that's immoral. And the reasoning I have is that God knows what Abraham was going to do. He didn't need to actually test him. This makes no sense. God testing people is it's like he's mad scientist type approach to his creation. I think it's not an accurate depiction of what God would really be like, and I won't accept it. Like, I don't think that all benevolent being would do such a thing. It doesn't make sense. I don't believe in all benevolent being would create hell either. It's absolutely not acceptable.
Thinking of it on a scale of only Abraham, like you're saying, oh well, Abraham had nothing to gain from this. God already knew what Abraham was gonna do, but this story is meant to illustrate something that's a message for all people after Abraham. It's not meant for only Abraham.
Yeah, I don't think that divine command theory is a good thing. I don't think that people should be thinking that it's possible that some being will come down and tell them to do that, or things that are potentially evil because of this potential greater good. There's no difference between what that and what a demon would do. Like, a demon would do the same shit.
There's other options than just divine command theory.
I'm saying a demon would do the same shit, no? Like, they'd come down and say, you should go kill this guy. It's for the greater good. They're really a fucking demon, like, tempting you.
Sure, the only difference is the demon isn't a maximally great being who sets the standard.
You don't actually know that who Abraham talked to wasn't a demon. Like, this is just humans writing shit down in the old books. Even if we grant this ridiculousness that he's actually speaking to divine spirits, which is highly unlikely, if you just think about your personal experience of life, this shit doesn't happen. And recognize that, like, even if this is some magical sorcery witchcraft, it's far more likely it's a fucking alien or something else that's actually reasonable.
Yeah, I've seen Christians who reappropriate biblical terminology to try to fit like a modern lens of the way we perceive aliens and stuff, like the chariots and like the flaming chariots and the angels and the way that they're described as aliens and the way we think.
The Bible is basically interpreted by everyone in a different way, and so there's no way it can be the truth and the fiction of what happens. Everyone's
agree, but there are certain core doctrines that are pretty. Like the idea that Jesus came and then died on the cross and then resurrected is an idea that most Christians hold to, and then the idea that he resurrected gives him authority, which is another idea that Most
Well, he
Christians
wasn't
are
even the only
atheists
one to
anyway.
resurrect. It was the banality of the time. There was a bunch of other people coming out of their graves at the same
Well, sure,
time.
but most of those people came out of their graves through works that Jesus performed. Jesus
No,
was
no, that's actually not true. There were people like before Christ was resurrected, also, slain, put to death, or in their graves, coming out before Jesus did. He wasn't there. It's like God was resurrecting a bunch of people that were being wronged by the the Romans and the Jews.
But none of these people were claiming to be the Son of God and saying that they and the Father were one. And that's the big discrepancy. It's like if you were, of a high enough place of, authority, or, you're spreading this message that's good and God actually deems you worthy of being resurrected, then what you're saying must be true. And none of these other people that are being resurrected are claiming to be God. So, I mean, this person's being resurrected by God because they're doing something good and they're claiming to be God. Therefore, they must be God, or why would God resurrect them? Unless God's main goal is to deceive people, and if that's the case, then you can't win either way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not ultimately not even sure any of this should happen because there's no other accounts of it. There's just the Gospels, and they were, written
Well,
dozens
there's
of years
also,
later.
I mean, there also is Josephus. He did write about, Jesus, and he was a doer of good works, and or he was a man who did good works, if it's even lawful to call him a man. And um, I think there was also, um, shoot, I don't know. I think Jesus is referenced by like 3 extra biblical authors or something like that.
Well, yeah, but not his resurrection.
Mm, I think Josephus may have wrote about his resurrection. I can look at that real quick.
I'm not aware of any extra biblical mentions of his actual resurrection and the 3-day tomb thing. But even still, I generally just don't agree with the whole premise of Christianity from a moral standpoint. I think that like
You don't agree with it from a moral standpoint based off what you think is morally correct and morally incorrect.
right, which is all that exists, because if humans aren't around with their consciousness assigning morals, they don't exist, right?
Well, if you
And
want to believe
even
that,
if you
that's
want to
fine.
say
But
God exists and he's the one setting the morals, it's still his subjective opinion, right?
do you
So like
think it's correct to say that other morals are incorrect if they're all subjective? Like,
if I don't like pickles, right? I can think it's wrong for you to like pickles, right? I could
well, you
think
can
it's weird
think
and
that it's
gross that
wrong
you like
for
pickles.
you
Do you
can think
agree?
it's weird and gross that other people would like pickles. I don't think
I
it's
can also
okay
think
to say that
it's weird and
people would
gross
like.
that like people want to molest children, right?
Sure, you can think that, but I don't think that you should say that it's actually wrong if it's only subjective.
I wouldn't say it's actually wrong. It's my opinion that it's wrong. I don't know what
Yeah, but you're
actually
still
wrong
saying
means. It's not a thing. It's not a thing, is what I'm saying.
do you
Because
believe in any objective truths, or do you think
uh,
everything's
I think
assigned
that
value by
I
humans?
think there is objective truth, but I don't think
Okay.
morals are in that scope. Objective truth is things like analytical truths and things like potentially inductive truths, and proving them retroactively, you can know it was true. When you made the claim. Um, I believe in like analytical truths, where it's like if we define something, it can't not be true, right? Like the law of non-contradiction is something we've defined that's always true, right? And the tautology is their identity is always true at a particular moment when it's been claimed,
By
right?
the way, I found this is from Antiquities 1863, and Josephus wrote as follows: